is our last day in Park City, and we're basically just milking the condo to the last possible minute.
Pretty much dealing with that post-Sundance depression.
Yeah. And the occasional sore throat that comes from traveling, too. Apologize for that.
I hope that just comes from traveling.
I hope so, too. But we have time to talk about our day 3 experience and the movies we saw then. Starting with Dirty God. This was one that we actually got. We didn't pay for this ticket. We waitlisted, went to pay for it, and then just handed us a free ticket and said, "Here, keep your money."
Yep.
That was awesome.
So Dirty God, I keep going back and forth on this one as potentially my favorite of the festival. I know it's a more straightforward film, and I usually, like the really weird stuff, but with Dirty God, there was just something about its aesthetic and the way everything was framed. I know, so when the film was introduced, the woman who introduced it, I think it was actually that woman, Michelle, who is the curator of the entire festival.
Yeah.
She talked about how they had kind of had their eye on that director for a really long time, especially because of the way that she frames natural things in a really unnatural way.
Yeah. And this was her first English language film.
Yes.
It was set in London, because there was a scene on the eye.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so it was set in London, but the director is Dutch, primarily. So it was still actually considered a Dutch film, but it was English language set in London. Basic premise?
Well, the basic premise, there's a girl who, she's a young single mother. She has been disfigured in acid.
Yeah, her ex-boyfriend dumped acid on her face. So
the movie is mostly about her trying to sort of come to terms with that and also change it. The doctors tell her that the disfigurement in her face is not going to be operable any further. So she turns to a shady online service to get some weird plastic surgery out in Morocco or something.
There was
some kind of a scam.
Yeah.
It looks like it was a banner ad or something that she clicked on.
She was just so desperate to fix the physical appearance, but
right.
Towards
the beginning of the film, there's a lot about her child. So after she was disfigured, her child sort of called her a monster. I think she was, probably 2 or 3.
Yeah.
Really, really young child. So some of that had to do with her dealing with her position as a mother and whether or not she was fit for that.
It was a very emotional movie.
Yeah.
It dealt with raw feelings and stuff like that. It was very, very well made.
And for parts of the movie, she wears this mask.
Well, that was right after she got out of one of the surgeries, she had to wear this protective covering for the graft.
Yeah, and every time I saw that mask, the only thing I could think of was eyes without a face.
Oh.
It's almost a creepy mask. Not quite like, I don't know. Yeah. It's Michael Myers creepy in its mundanity.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, more than anything, the visuals were incredible in Dirty God, especially the opening. So the opening is just shots of an old person, very close up. So like this part right here. So you see all the wrinkles and blemishes.
No, that was her skin. That was the skin graft.
Was it? Oh, that was the skin graft.
Yeah, it was extreme close-ups of the skin graft.
Yes.
It was...
That's
right. I'm wondering, was that makeup or was she actually...
Oh, I think it was makeup.
Okay, because it was really well done.
Yeah, it was. I know it was the actress's first role.
Yeah.
They really emphasized that it was her first role, and we would all be surprised by that. But I don't think she was a straight-up burn victim.
Okay.
I'm trying to remember if there were any flashbacks where she didn't have any of that.
No.
I guess not. But anyway, yeah, the visuals were exceptional. There's a whole subplot about her and her best friend, and her best friend's boyfriend, who she is sort of in love with, and she spends a lot of the movie very sexually dissatisfied and feeling undesirable. So that's another major arc in the film.
Okay, so then the next movie we saw was another foreign film, this one actually in a foreign language, Koko-Di, Koko-Da. This was a Scandinavian film. It was in Finnish and Danish. It's, I guess it was classified psychological horror.
I think so. I guess, yeah. You can tell by the puzzled looks on our faces that this is not an easy movie to describe. Or pin into a single genre.
Okay, so it basically, the beginning of the movie is very different from the rest of the movie. There's like an event that happens, and then it flashes forward 3 years. This couple is struggling to keep it together after the death of their child, and they go on this camping trip. And these 3 characters out of some Finnish fairy tale appear out of the woods and terrorize them. And it ends, the situation repeats itself day after day. And it always ends pretty much the same way with them dying. And it's just kind of like, if they're kind of like stuck in a dream, or they can't, because the guy kind of remembers that it happened, and he tries to change the outcome each time, but he can't get out of it.
Yeah, so it's very much like Groundhog Day, Happy Death Day, that kind of thing, except very weird and very art house.
Yes.
And in some places very violent.
Oh, yeah.
Which was interesting. I was not expecting that. But it was, I don't know. Some of the violence was really brutal. And a lot of it was off screen, but it still had a whole lot of impact, especially because of the sound design.
Oh, yeah. Well, a lot of it had involved like a pit bull.
Yeah.
Some kind of dog.
Some kind of dog.
So there was a lot of, screams and barking, and you don't see a whole lot of the pit bull attacks, but you can feel them.
And they happen often.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this film, it's really hard for me to pin down whether this is really straightforward, or if there's, like, if I watch this a second time, are there going to be a lot of little metaphorical things that I notice? Because there does seem to be a lot of symbolism, a lot of allegory. So I'm really looking forward to watching this one again.
Yeah, definitely.
As far as the experience of the movie theater goes, I think it was probably our most perplexing one. So the audience kept laughing uproariously, and
every time that the story reset and went back to the opening scene, the audience would laugh, I think out of frustration, sort of, that the story is restarting and they wanted it to keep going, maybe.
Yeah.
But it was uproarious laughter, and it got bigger every time it reset.
And it made me really thankful it was a foreign film, because if there were no subtitles, there would definitely be dialogue that would be difficult to hear in that setting.
Yeah, right.
Which happened in a couple other films I was at, but yeah. So, yeah, the audience reactions, it wasn't just that. There were a bunch of weird little things that the audience just laughed out loud at. And I'm like, this isn't supposed to be fun.
It was,
it's supposed to be creepy,
it got some very odd reactions. It was an interesting sit. Okay. The last movie that we saw on day 3, I got a waitlist ticket for that one. I wrote the name on it. The Hole in the Ground. This was an A24 film. Praise be. And first off, as soon as the A24 logo came up on the screen, the audience started just wildly applauding. And then it became a game where they would start to applaud after every production logo.
And there were like 8?
Yeah.
At least?
There were a lot of producers involved in this one.
So the second time, we were just kind of like, okay, come on, guys, this really isn't, it's not funny anymore. And then it just kind of kept going, and then it became hilarious.
Yeah, it was one of those situations where it stops being funny, and then it gets funny again because it just kept going. But the actual movie, this was just like a straight-up horror film.
Yeah.
which a lot of the other ones that had been labeled horror kind of blended that or just abandoned it altogether.
Yep.
This one was pure horror. Where do you want to start?
Well, it's a doppelganger scenario. So there's a woman who she's a single mother, newly single mother, recently moved to this rural area with her very young son, and he's a sort of a precocious young child. It's kind of that sort of trope.
Yeah.
And she ends up finding this hole in the middle of the ground,
out in the woods behind her house. This massive sinkhole with like quicksand at the bottom. You can see it shifting.
And so there are periods, or there's at least one period where her son disappears for a little while, and when he comes back, she feels like there's something not quite right about him. And it seems that there are rumors about this kind of happening before with a few other people. Well, one person, namely. Yeah. And of course, everybody thinks that woman's crazy. You know, she's completely out of it and gets hit in the road, or stands in the middle of the road a lot.
And she does go crazy basically. After that happened, and so she is muttering to herself, standing out in the middle of the road, stuff like that. But then, when our main character starts to get more and more suspicious of her son, the same thing starts to kind of happen to her, and people start thinking she's crazy, and it just, I really don't want to go too much further into it, but it was really entertaining.
And a lot of the film concerned that, is he really not her son? And they do a really good job with showing these little things that are out of place.
Yeah.
Things that are really provable.
Just enough to make you, the audience, suspicious, but also make you think, well, maybe it's just in her head.
Yeah. And of course, pretty much everybody in the movie believes that it's in her head.
Yes.
So it was the ending, which I won't spoil, but it went in a different direction than I expected. The whole doppelganger story is kind of that's been really popular in horror lately, and even sci-fi. So there's a very typical trajectory to that, and it subverts that just a little bit. And I did appreciate that about the film. I think the lead actress's performance was probably the highlight of the film, as well as the child actor.
Yeah. And this was an Irish film, wasn't it?
Yes, I believe so. Yes. The cinematography was interesting. I would say the directing, very good, but I had a few issues with the pacing. I felt it was a little slow, not by much. Just could have used like 5 minutes less. And more than anything, it was the film itself is a little too dark, and I don't know if this was maybe like the theater we were in. I thought there were some scenarios
visually, brightness was down.
Yeah, the brightness was down, and I don't know. I actually had that same experience at that same theater a few times, so it kind of just makes me wonder if it was that projector, that screen, or whatever.
That's a possibility.
Yeah, so that's another one that I look forward to watching again, because I feel like there are probably things that we didn't pick up on in that first time. It's mostly straightforward, but just little hints and clues and things like that.
Oh, I could totally watch it again.
Well, definitely could watch it again. Yeah, it was very entertaining.
Yeah. All right, so that was day 3. We still have one more day. 2 and actually 3 movies. He saw one without me.
Yes.
That hopefully we'll talk about pretty soon, because we have some really fun stories about those.
Yes, we do.
So we're running out of time here in the condo, and I'm reaching my limit here.
You're running out of voice?
Yes. So thanks for watching, and stick around. We've got one more coming.